here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
That is right. You are listening to the home of conservative, not bitter talk, and I am your host, Todd Huff. Email, hour 2 of the program. Email, by the way, todd@toddhuffshow.com, where you can send me your thoughts, questions, opinions. Yes, I'll even accept your adoration and praise by email. It's good to be here. Thank you for joining us. Again, we're streaming this program on YouTube. Hour 2 for the time being. It's always available to those who want to listen or be a member of Total Access. You can access this digitally on our website. You can get a free month of Total Access by subscribing to our email newsletter, which goes out each and every Tuesday. Subscribe at toddhuffshow.com. And while you're here on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That'll help us reach more people and grow our digital footprint on YouTube, which is something that I'd been intending to do for some time. And of course, there's a lot of things going on here as we continue to grow the program. So thank you for listening, by the way. We talked a lot last hour about George Floyd, that tragic situation, and the tragic consequences of that, where we have riots, and there's protests too, but there are largely riots. I'm looking here. It looks like the National Guard is on scene in Minneapolis here to put an end to the riots. This is the first thing that needs to happen, folks. I mean, we're watching. You already have businesses and communities that are under extreme stress and difficulty with COVID-19. And as I ended last hour, I raised the question, why, something we've not heard about during this whole thing with COVID, or during the riots, is COVID, at least in Minnesota, right? We've not heard about whether or not, or why the protesters are not wearing masks, the rioters are not wearing masks, why they're not socially distanced, if their hands, sanitizing their hands and cleaning their hands as they loot stores, as they steal items. Are they maintaining that social distance? Are they touching one another? Are they washing their hands after both of them touch the same surface? You don't hear that stuff. And I'm looking, again, it's remarkable. We played some sound bites last hour, but as the buildings are just burning. Buildings are burning. In fact, Don Lemon, did I already get to that part of the tweet, of the sound bite last hour? Don Lemon had actually said, I know there are fires, and he referenced that maybe they were started accidentally. Who accidentally starts big building fires all over the city of Minneapolis? It's really silly stuff. How they want you to, and of course we played the other soundbite from the MSNBC reporter who told us that it was largely peaceful, right? They're mostly just protesters, and as he was standing directly in front of a building that was completely engulfed in flames, right? And so first thing is, you've got to stop what's happening in the city of Minneapolis. Now, I don't know if this is it, from the sounds of things. It sounds like it is ratcheting up, at least in its intensity. Last night, they actually, I believe, set fire to a police building. I believe. So this is continued to get ratcheted up, and now it's a weekend. If it's continuing to ratchet up, and now we're heading into a weekend, will this continue to attract more protesters? And I don't care about I do care about them, but protesters can protest. The problem is the rioters here. So this has to be stopped. Trump tweeted about this. This is kind of where we ended last hour. Trump tweeted about this. And again, it's a 2-tweet series because Twitter, of course, limits the number of characters in your tweet. I'm going to read both of these tweets that Trump sent. Actually, I said last night, he sent the tweet after midnight. After midnight, here's what it says. So it was sent today, early this morning. I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis. a total lack of leadership. Either the very weak radical left mayor, Jacob Fry, get his act together and bring the city under control, or I will send in the National Guard and get the job done right. Ellipses, ... And I think he's got a couple of extra ... here. Then he leads ... The second tweet now. These thugs, all caps, are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd. He's, of course, talking about the looters and the rioters, and Oz has fired up the computer over here. And I won't let that happen, he says. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty, and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you! ! So Twitter, as I was saying last hour, Twitter did not pull this. Again, they've already, on a couple of Trump tweets, when Trump was talking about the potential for fraud, this was earlier in the week, the potential for fraud in, mail-in ballots, not just absentee ballots, which are two different things. Absentee ballots, when someone says, hey, I can't be here or whatever for to vote, I want to request the ballot by mail. So then the election board or whoever sends this thing out to your home, you get that ballot, you can fill it out and send it in. Mail, that is a different situation. You have to basically, I voted by mail-in ballot once. I'm trying to think, I might have been, I don't know where I was. Not exactly sure, but I seem to recall voting mail-in ballot. But I requested it and explained that I wouldn't be in town on Election Day. This was back before you could vote, for a month before Election Day with early voting and all that. I mean, what else do people want? You start to look at this and you think, if you want to vote in this country, is it really that hard? At least, is there any state now that doesn't do early voting? Maybe there is. But here, we have, our primary got moved in Indiana. It's moved to actually this Tuesday, June 2nd. And there's early voting all this, I think it was all this week. I think even tomorrow and Monday, there's early voting. So, I just don't know how many times we need, how much time we need to actually get to the polls if we're serious about voting. But Trump points out that mail-in ballots on a large scale where everyone gets one, of course, how is that not more susceptible to fraud? Again, I referenced last hour that people who, this recent stimulus check that we all got, most people got $1,200 a person, based upon income and whatever number of kids in the family, that sort of thing. But this $1,200 a person, a lot of these checks were mailed out. I think there were thousands, from what I read, that went to people who were dead. So if dead people get checks, can dead people not get ballots? If people know, if less than honest people know that every person is going to get a ballot, can they not? Does that not create an environment where ballots can be stolen and harvested and then fraudulently completed and submitted? Yes, I would think that that's absolutely the case. It doesn't mean, it's not like 50% or something, but if we're talking about maintaining the integrity of our election, that needs to at least be addressed. And so Twitter, my point is, put a little exclamation point on Trump's tweets earlier this week when he questioned just how much that mailing a ballot to everyone in this country would lead to fraud. And Twitter basically says, fact check. Well, fact check it with a CNN article, which is incredible if you think about it on its face. CNN is the furthest thing from a media outlet. Well, one of the furthest things from a media outlet, because there's other competitors here, other folks that want to take home that crown. CNN is far from unbiased, but yet that's where we go to fact check Trump and whether or not mail-in ballots for every person increases the likelihood for fraud. So they put the little exclamation point on the tweet last week. Now today, in that tweet I read a moment ago, where Trump said that he's going to send in the National Guard if they can't get things under control. And he ends his tweet by saying this: any difficulty and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So Twitter says this is a violent tweet. Twitter says, in fact, when you open up the tweet at the very top, it says this tweet violated the Twitter rules about glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest, doesn't say best, for the tweet to remain accessible. So we want to flag it. We want people to see it, and we want them to see that this glorifies violence. We want you to read the tweet knowing that it glorifies violence. I wonder how many people would have read this tweet the first time and would have thought, man, Trump is glorifying violence, if Twitter didn't say so. Because he says when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So, again, this Trump versus Twitter thing is kind of just beginning. Yesterday, Trump signed an executive order about that, and we'll talk about that next segment. And there's some issues that this brings to the forefront. We'll talk about monopolies. We'll talk about free markets. We'll talk about the difference between the state censoring people and private companies censoring people with their rules and so forth. Of course, what happens here, the real question to me is what happens when they have written rules, but then they apply those rules differently. Now, that's a different subject, because now we're no longer talking about what the company has the right to do. We're talking about whether or not the company violates its agreement with its user. That may be, that's another issue here as we cut through all that clutter. But anyway, Trump versus Twitter in a lot of ways has just begun, and this is ramping up. In fact, Trump's out there saying, I use Twitter because the media is a bunch of liars. I can't trust them to tell people, so I go directly to the American people with my Twitter account. But truth being told, I don't really like Twitter. I wish I didn't have to do it. Wish I had a group of people in the media that were honest and upright people who would actually tell true stories about what we're trying to do and let us, accurately depict what we're talking about and what our priorities are in this White House. So anyway, time for a break. Talk about these things and more as the program comes together. You're listening to the home of conservative, not bitter talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Looking to make a conservative, not bitter fashion statement? Check out our apparel online, including brand new items at toddhuffshow.com/shop today.
Do you use the expensive blue or yellow pills to charge your sex life? Are you thinking about it? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 a pill for the other pills, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pills deliver the exact same results for less than $3. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. And right now, radio callers will get 44 blue or yellow pills for $120 with free discreet shipping. You can save more than $700 off pharmacy prices. Charge your sex life now and save a ton of money. Call now and get your 44 pills and save over $700 and qualify for free shipping. Stop overpaying and call right now.
800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. That's 800-764-9168.
Healthcare is expensive and complicated. Did you know that as a Christian business owner, it is possible to provide access to affordable health benefits for your employees? Remodel Health has helped employers across the United States save over $22 million in the past 3 years. Our innovative approach allows your employees to have the health benefits they need at a cost you can afford. Go to remodelhealth.com/Todd to help your employees find the health care they deserve. Remodel Health. Rethink employee health benefits.
If you own a rental property, you know the hassles of marketing, renting, collecting, and the handling of maintenance and repairs. One call to Zuluscape can put an end to your property management headaches. Zuluscape has over 20 years of experience helping landlords throughout central Indiana in taking the stress out of owning a rental. From A to Z, let Zuluscape handle it all so you can enjoy owning a rental instead of hating being a landlord. Give us a call at 317-663-8485 or visit our website at Zuluscape.com.
This is the sound of your typical do-it-yourselfer in completely over his head.
For heating, plumbing,
and electrical done right.
Call Mr. Quick. Call Mr. Quick. Dial the number, spell the words. For on time.
It's been said that we often make the mistake of hiring people based upon what they know, yet we almost always fire them because of who they are. If you've ever made this mistake when choosing a company to do work on your home, you know exactly how agonizing this can be. The company may offer quality products, have certified technicians, offer a stellar warranty, but they're late, or they hit you with hidden charges, or they're rude, or worse. Why not get the best of both worlds by choosing Economy Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing? Economy installs high-quality trained products, and they're trained and certified to provide the absolute highest levels of expertise in central Indiana today. And they provide the kind of service you'd expect from a Christian company. In fact, they specifically seek to deliver a Romans 12, 10, and 11 kind of experience for each and every job they do. So call Economy Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing today at 317-831-5279 or visit economyheatingandair.com. That's economyheatingandair.com.
You rely on your vehicle every day. It's not a member of the family, but you spend as much time with it as most family members. You wouldn't take your family to just any doctor, so don't trust your vehicle to just any repair service. At Raymond's Auto and Truck Repair in Plainfield, we have well-trained, caring technicians that have the expertise to get you back on the road. For 25 years, we've been servicing personal, commercial, and fleet vehicles. Give us a call at 317-838-7112 for the car service you deserve.
Welcome back. So Trump signed yesterday. Trump signed an executive order targeting Twitter, which of course opens up a whole bunch of just things to consider, issues that need to be balanced here, because Twitter is, of course, a private company. Twitter can set its rules. It's not the government isn't silencing us if it's Twitter. Now, you can make the case, of course, that Twitter has a political agenda, and this is a problem. I mean, this is a problem if they're using... Trump's argument effectively is it's become a monopoly. You've got all these social media companies, which are how people, what people use to come together socially online, and they're all effectively silencing conservatives. And so specifically as it pertains to Twitter and Trump, who's now been targeted in at least 3 of his tweets, 2 of his tweets with a little exclamation point earlier in the week that said, let us give you the facts on mail-in voting, even though that's something interesting altogether. Twitter, even what Twitter cited, they weren't entirely true in their fact-checking, which, of course, they weren't true to begin with. I mean, look, it's very reasonable to think that if you send out more ballots, I don't understand how this is even questioned at some point. It doesn't mean that it's wide scale or that it's a huge percentage. But if our intention here is to make sure that we do not have people exploiting the system, we need to at least be mindful of it. It almost appears that the radical left and the media say, don't worry about it. The only votes that we care about being influenced incorrectly are those that are influenced by our stupid Russian collusion narrative. Right? That's the only thing we care about. And by the way, there was no evidence that any vote was changed by that. Still waiting for someone to explain to me how that worked. You got Putin sitting in Moscow with this team of social media geniuses creating an online campaign that tricked people into voting for Trump when they really wanted to vote for Hillary. I need someone to explain that to me. I'll tell you what I can understand, and what the vast majority of Americans can understand, is that if ballots show up in every mailbox, a physical ballot, a mail-in ballot, they understand that some of those could go to places where people are dead. Some of those could go to places or could be taken from mailboxes. There's clearly a very understandable path from ballots being mailed out to ballots being fraudulently completed. That's a much easier path to understand than Twitter tricks people into voting for Trump. It just doesn't, one of those things isn't like the other. One of those things doesn't make sense. But anyway, back to Trump versus Twitter specifically, and the things that matter here, the things that matter here in the balance, how our founders set up our country. Our founders understood, because they were students of history, because they understood human nature. They understood the importance of competition in the marketplace, of freedom, and that when there's competition and choice, the consumer, the American citizen, benefits. They understood these things. They understood that whether the issue of a consolidation of power and control leads to manipulation, leads to corruption, leads to some bad things, and that's what we've seen. That's what we've seen on. Trump will argue what we've seen with social media outlets. They've been silencing people, and so having antitrust law preventing us from having monopolies is, even though companies are not the same as a government, the idea goes that if you are, where else do you go if your federal government is heavy-handed and has taken away your liberties and choice? Where else do you go if you're being targeted by them? Where else do you turn? To an extent, I'm not saying that they wanted the states to do this, but at least if a state government was acting oppressively or out of control or what have you, you could theoretically move to another state. Which, again, I'm not saying that they wanted to see that type of government anywhere. I'm saying that it's most dangerous the higher up it gets. Federal government, and even worse than that would be if there's a world government, would be much more dangerous than even a federal government like this. But the idea is that power consolidated without other people, having choice and not having all of the power pertaining to one issue or one particular sector of the economy under the control of a couple of individuals or a couple of companies is not necessarily, it's not a good thing, because it could be abused. And that's at the heart of what I think Trump's arguing here. Of course, what'll happen with this, it doesn't, there's questions on whether or not that, there's any teeth to this, but he brings up a very important point that if you have collusion between a small number of companies who control the social media space, a huge percentage of market share, Twitter being one of those, and you're silencing one particular side of the political argument, and you're letting the other side effectively do whatever it wants, then it's easy to see why that's a problem. And the founders would have thought that was a problem, as well. Because that's not just there's something not appropriate or there's just not good about it. So the more competitors there are, the more you take away the likelihood that you'll have silencing of certain groups. But again, the other issue is, and this is to Twitter's benefit, is that Twitter is not the government. You know, it's the government that can't censor your speech. It's the government that can't silence you. Twitter can make rules that say, you know, what they want said on their platforms. Now, it's interesting to me that the left is okay with this idea of censorship when it targets people on the right, when they put little disclaimers on tweets for those who are conservative, but they don't bother to do that to those who are leftist. To those who have glorified violence in legitimate ways, they don't seem to really care if they're on the liberal side of this equation. In fact, I mean, you look at what's happening in this situation in Minneapolis, and you think, you know, a lot of what is being said. Yeah, again, let me see if I can find this Capper. I'm going to have to probably do this after the break, but Kaepernick's tweet, Ice Cube's tweet. How about this? Here's a tweet, if I can get this thing to load. Here's a tweet that doesn't, to my knowledge, I'll look here. Let me see if it's got it. Yeah, I do not see this. I do not see any disclaimer on this tweet. Ice Cube showing the footage of George Floyd being held down on the ground with the knee on the back and side of his neck. Ice-T tweets that out, and he says this: "How long will we go for blue on black crime before we strike back? Question mark, question mark, question mark." So wait a minute. That seems to be a much more direct threat at violence to me than anything Trump tweeted when he says, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Basically meaning we're going to protect people from violence. Now, I'm not something I would have tweeted, but if we're saying it's glorifying violence, or even in the case of potentially calling for violence, how is Ice Cube's tweet here? How does it not fall into that category? Again, the tweet reads this: "How long will we go for blue on black crime before we strike back?" Well, Todd, striking back is really metaphorical. Well, no, it's not metaphorical, because we've got metaphorical striking back with the protest. He's talking about striking back. He's talking about taking matters into your own hands. He's talking about vigilante, well, you could call it justice, but I'm not sure that that's what he's really calling for. What is he calling for? I don't have a disclaimer from Twitter here telling me that this might be considered violent, but they wanted to keep it up anyway, just so I could see how radical some people are about some of these things. So we've got that. We got Kaepernick out there as well. I got to find the Kaepernick tweet. That's going to be I don't know if I've got that pulled up. Anyway, I'll do that after the break. I'm going to take it. Well, no, I'm actually past time. Thought I was early. I am not early. Going to take a time out. Well, no, I'll talk about the Kaepernick tweet. Again, if we're being consistent here, with Twitter, why is Ice Cube's tweets okay? Why is Kaepernick's tweet okay, but Trump's tweet is not? Well, Todd, Trump is the president of the United States. Well, does Trump have a different set of rules on Twitter? Does he have a different user agreement that he filled out? I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. But it seems to me that Twitter they have a legal obligation at that point to enforce their rules consistently. I mean, if they're only targeting you, you've definitely got a case to be made that says, hey, they're not doing what they've contractually obligated themselves to do on Twitter. They're only silencing me, Trump might say. They're only targeting my tweets. They're only marking my tweets. That's a legitimate argument outside of whatever this executive order leads to, which, of course, there's lots of legal questions and concerns about this. But anyway, that being said, I got to take a time out. When we get back, I want to find this Kaepernick tweet and read it. And you can decide if it violates Twitter's policies. You can decide if it glorifies violence or promotes violence or whatever, these things that they're wanting you to believe that Trump is doing on Twitter. So that being said, quick time out. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Like what you hear on Todd's show? Why not get more by signing up for Todd's free Semi-Sweet Morsels of Truth newsletter? To subscribe, visit ToddHuffShow.com/subscribe or text HUFF to 31996.
Ever ask yourself, what does my business insurance actually cover? Well, at AIA and Avon, we think you deserve to know. AIA is focused on earning your trust. We've found that when we educate our clients and truly listen to them, they allow us to work alongside them to put together the insurance plan they need. Whether your business is big or small, give AIA a call, 317-718-1747, or find out what we can do for you at AIA4lowrates.com. Advertisement sponsored by Grange Insurance.
Hi, I'm Greg Hubler from Greg Hubler Chevrolet. You know, a promise can get lost in a big city, but in a smaller town, a promise made had better be a promise kept. That's why the Greg Hubler Promise covers every vehicle we sell. All new Chevys receive a 3-year, 45,000-mile scheduled maintenance, plus complimentary roadside assistance and a free car wash with every visit. A promise made is a promise kept. Stop by Greg Hubler Chevy today or visit GregHublerChevy.com. Find new roads.
The printing industry has changed a lot since we opened for business in 1931, but what our clients expect from us really hasn't changed. Quality print, fast turnaround, and competitive prices. We've learned a lot at Moeller Printing over 86 years and 3 generations. Why not put that experience to work for you? Call 317-353-2224 and mention discount code RADIO to receive 10% off your first order. Call Moeller Printing at 317-353-2224.
Are you an electrician, plumber, or handyman looking for an 8-to-5 job that pays you what you're worth? Copper Ridge Home Services wants you. Our veteran-owned family business offers holiday pay, weekends off, and on-site training for entry-level positions. Our team is growing, so if you have a can-do attitude, we want you to be part of that growth. Ready for a change? Give Copper Ridge a call at 317-839-6100. That's 317-839-6100. Copper Ridge Home Services. We value your time.
Hey Indianapolis, by now you've probably heard about Jody Dowdle with Midwest Tax Group. Jody and his team are experts at helping you prepare your personal or small business tax returns. You can count on Midwest Tax Group to get every deduction possible and work for your higher refund. And not just on this year's taxes, they'll check your prior returns for any tax savings you may have missed for free. Are you behind on filing your returns? They can file past due returns and help negotiate with the IRS too. They complete most tax returns within a week and charge an affordable flat fee, no hourly billing. And as their client, you can consult with the team at Midwest Tax Group year-round at no charge. Midwest Tax Group has 4 office locations in Castleton, Greenwood, Plainfield, and Greenfield, with evening and weekend appointments available. Schedule your appointment today at 317-288-5260. That's 317-288-5260. Or visit their website at mwtaxgroup.com. Midwest Tax Group can help you more than any piece of software ever could.
When life is hard for the women you care about, there is help with issues such as widowhood, anxiety, depression, or abuse. They don't have to go through it alone. Peace Restored is there to walk with women through the journey. Peace Restored helps women through free mentoring, counseling, and education. When life is hard, Peace Restored is there to help women you care about find hope and healing. To learn more, visit peacerestored.net.
Radon is an invisible, odorless gas that kills more people than drunk driving. In fact, radon is the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. Is radon threatening the health of your family? Call Radon Environmental at 317-843-0804. Radon Environmental specializes in radon testing and mitigation. The process is quick, easy, and worth it. Radon Environmental wants to make sure your family's health is not at risk. Call 317-843-0804. Welcome back. So let's read this tweet from Colin Kaepernick. Again, I only bring this up to see if Twitter is being consistent here in the enforcement of the rules. And if they're not being consistent, then it becomes an issue violating the terms that the agreement, the contract that they have with their users. And there's a recourse for that, right? Now, whether it will be followed and appropriately dealt with, there are recourses if a company is violating its agreement with you. But here's the tweet. It's pinned to the top of his page. Colin Kaepernick. Here it is. When civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. Now, does that glorify violence? What does he mean by revolting? Seems to me that by revolting he means violence. He says this: when civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. The cries for peace will rain down, and when they do, they will land on deaf ears because your violence has brought this resistance. We have the right to fight back. Rest in power, George Floyd. Again, tragic situation, tragic what happened here. Again, even if the actions of the officer were or are or could be deemed justifiable, it's still tragic. I said this yesterday. It's tragic even if the officers were following the right steps. And in the instances where officers, grab their firearms and lawfully fire upon an individual who is threatening them, or in the case of Michael Brown, for example, that's still tragic. Michael Brown's situation was tragic, and on top of tragic, it could be a major problem here. A major problem here with the way that law enforcement has been handled, at least in this particular case in the city of Minneapolis. So, but that doesn't, he says civility leads to death, Colin Kaepernick. So revolting is the only logical reaction. So in other words, when you comply, Colin Kaepernick wants you to believe people are still dying. Now that may be the case in this particular case. There's no evidence to suggest at this point, video evidence that we've seen, that doesn't say that is the case. But this is one example. The other ones, there are other examples of police police not doing the right thing. Police sometimes acting criminally. But these are the exceptions to the rules, and several or even many of the examples they use are not adequate examples for what's really, the Michael Brown example should not be included in these. They still include it. They still chant the things, hands up, don't shoot, even though that never happened. But that's why is this tweet not flagged? Why don't I see the little thing at the top that says this is glorifying violence, but we want you to read it anyway? If you scroll down here a little bit, he retweeted a guy by the name of Philip Lewis, and the tweet was the 3rd precinct in Minneapolis just burning. And it says the Minneapolis Police Department's 3rd precinct has been set on fire, which of course, look, it's simply, that's a fact. That's what happened. But why was he retweeting these things? You almost get the sense that this is what Kaepernick thinks should happen. This is the appropriate response, and that's what his tweet said. When our civility leads to death, then, revolting is the only logical reaction. Fighting back. I wonder what he thinks about burning down stores that I'm looking at here. That does not seem like a logical reaction, Colin Kaepernick. Taking what belongs to another business in not your specific to Colin Kaepernick, but to the people of Minneapolis, your community, and then burning their store to the ground, probably accidentally, if we ask Don Lemon. But how is this good? How is this justifiable? Is this the only logical reaction? See, to me, when I see buildings ablaze and I see riots being the way of how a particular city is going to respond, or a group of people in a city are going to respond, the only logical reaction is to do whatever needs to be done lawfully to stop this stuff, up to and including sending in the National Guard. This cannot be allowed to happen. Other people will die if this stuff continues, and there have been examples of people getting shot and killed through all this. Anyway, I'm just watching the footage here, and I don't know. I've not seen any tweets from Kaepernick on this. The only tweet I see about a fire seems to be almost suggesting just the way that I read it, that maybe he's kind of, thinks that what needs to happen. Anyway, long in the segment. Got to take a break. You're listening to Conservative Not Better Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Listen to Todd's show on your way to work, but want to hear more? Don't miss a beat. Visit toddhuffshow.com/listen to catch the program anytime, anywhere.
What if your bank treated you like a person instead of an account number? What if you could sit across from the person you are opening an account with or requesting a loan from and have an actual conversation? You may be thinking, Todd, that's crazy talk. Well, not at Citizens Bank. Come visit them in Monrovia and meet Nick Gibson, their new branch manager, and the rest of their staff. Or give them a call at 317-831-0110. Citizens Bank is an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
The compassion of Christ compels us to stop what we're doing and seek that person out. I think as Jesus went in that famous song I sang as a little kid was Zacchaeus, come down. Zacchaeus was in a tree and he wanted to engage with Jesus, but he just couldn't. And Jesus stopped and he went over to him. If we are going to live a life of compassion, the compassion of Christ, are we willing to stop and seek those who need a touch of compassion today?
Hi, my name is John Swadner, Sales Director of the Todd Huff Show. As a listener of the program, you know the show is growing. 4 years ago, it began as a podcast in a closet. Today, it's a 2-hour show that airs during morning drive in Indy and in Utah, and we're just scratching the surface. Todd brought me on board to help the show and our advertisers grow. That's why I'm specifically looking for partners who are a good fit to advertise with us. Would that be you? To learn more about what advertising would look like and to determine if it's a good fit for your business, shoot me an email to john@toddhuffshow.com. And be sure to ask me about some of our special packages that will save you up to 40%. Email john@toddhuffshow.com. Shoot me an email today.
Healthcare is expensive and complicated. Did you know that as a Christian business owner, it is possible to provide access to affordable health benefits for your employees? Remodel Health has helped employers across the United States save over $22 million in the past 3 years. Our innovative approach allows your employees to have the health benefits they need at a cost you can afford. Go to remodelhealth.com/Todd to help your employees find the healthcare they deserve. Remodel Health. Rethink employee health benefits.
I love my community, and I wanted to do more to make a difference with my hard-earned dollars. I wanted to make an impact and help shape our future and our county. So I gave money to the Community Foundation of Morgan County. More than just charitable giving, the money I donate is tracked and measured so every dollar is held accountable. It's a social return on your investment. Why don't you join me in donating at cfmconline.org? That's cfmconline.org. Philanthropy with measurable impact.
Seems like just yesterday that you couldn't find a quiet place to think in your home. Now all the kids have flown the nest and you find yourself wondering what to do with all of that extra space. This is Bruce of Bruce Richardson Realty. My team and I understand that life changes, and so do your home needs. So whether you're downsizing or upsizing, give us a call at 317-507-3285. Let us help you find the best fit for your residential or your commercial property needs. 317-507-3285.
Welcome back. So, talking about these tweets, talking about Twitter, talking about Trump's executive order, and of course, there'll be who knows where that'll actually end up. But that battle with Twitter and social media in general, and the media at large. You know, I'm going to pause and take a step back here. Take a step back, and let's just look. Constitutionally, the government silencing speech is what was prohibited. But there's also a case to be made from an antitrust perspective that says if all of the if there's a monopoly in a particular industry, then the government, because trying to protect against kind of the consolidation of power, the cornering of the market, and exploiting that market, you can make the case has an interest in doing something about that. And it's particularly egregious when the market is cornered in the case of social media and the media at large, television media, online media. When these folks are in the business of being a platform where information about ideas circulates and are exchanged, and when these ideas have a direct impact on politics, it's egregious. It's egregious if all those companies, or the vast majority of them, I think I read yesterday, did I see yesterday I read this somewhere, it was over 99% of Twitter execs, I think it might have been, that can't be right. Seeing if I can pull it up really quickly. I look at so many things during the day, but the vast majority of people at Twitter are supporters of the Democrat Party. And so, which is not well, maybe it should be a crime. I'm kidding. It's not a crime. But it does definitely say that, or bring into question, I'm looking for this here as I'm talking, and I can't find it. But it certainly brings into question why their motivations. Just because it's not, at some point you begin to get into areas that there's some questions, and we need to think about the consequences of these decisions and the applications of these decisions. If people who are diehard lovers of big government all get together, form a for-profit company that becomes an effective monopoly so that they can affect the outcome of elections. I'm not saying that they can't at some level, of course, have a free, they're not free to associate and do the things like, communicate with their ideas and so forth. But there's something problematic there. I think we would agree that to think that if these platforms are all one-sided, or they lean very heavily one direction, and they are silencing the political voices that disagree with them, there's something problematic about that. I'm not saying that we should suddenly disregard what that these are independent businesses. They're not the government silencing, but at some point, does it not get to the same point or the same end game, which is silencing political opposition? And if it's a monopoly, that's really the key. If there's other platforms, like I look at the media, for example. The media is monolithic. The media, I don't care where you tune in, you're going to hear the same thing. Now you'll hear some more extreme things in certain places. You'll see certain radical ideas embraced more openly and brazenly in some places. But you basically see the call for bigger government, the call for more taxes, the call for more control, the call for Democrats in office, and all these places, all these media outlets. And that's problematic. It doesn't mean that the government or Trump should write an executive order to stop that. It's just problematic, and it presents a real issue. If this is really the case, then we need to think through, how do we overcome this? How do we deal with this? How do we get our message out? There's multiple things we got to figure out as conservatives, as folks that are proponents of limited government. We got to figure out how to communicate effectively, how to not just, that's one of the things we try to do at CNBU, which, by the way, if you're interested in getting a free course at CNBU, Conservative Not Bitter University, which is something we're launching, you can simply text the word course to 888-111. But look, that's one of the things is how do we communicate? How do we be persuasive? how do we talk about issues? What's the best way to actually persuade someone instead of just getting into a fight with them over an issue? But the other issue is, how do we mechanically get this information out, especially if people like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube tend to target one group of people ideologically and not another. Anyway, questions that need to be answered, and I simply don't have the time at the moment, or all the answers simply as well, folks. But I got to take a time out. Out of time here. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Is it possible to be a fan of the show if you don't have the gear to prove it? Why not be safe and remove all doubt? Shop for official merchandise at toddhuffshow.com/shop today.
Anxiety, depression, relationship problems, past trauma. Problems rarely get better when given time. Care to Change Counseling can help. Our professionals combined evidence-based care models with scripture to get you on the path to a productive life. We are here to help you make the changes you need for a healthier, happier you. Take that brave step today. Call Care to Change at 317-790-9396 or visit caretochange.org.
The compassion of Christ compels us to stop what we're doing and seek that person out. I think as Jesus went in that famous song I sang as a little kid was Zacchaeus, come down. Zacchaeus was in a tree and he wanted to engage with Jesus, but he just couldn't, and Jesus stopped and he went over to him. If we are going to live a life of compassion, the compassion of Christ, are we willing to stop and seek those who need a touch of compassion today?
Geothermal tax credits are back, making this the perfect time to install a new Climate Master geothermal system. Take advantage of this limited time 26% tax credit and begin cutting your heating and cooling bills immediately. Visit indianageothermal.com/info to get your free Climate Master information kit or call 317-829-1490. Visit indianageothermal.com/info or call 317-829-1490. Geothermal, it's cheaper than you think.
Business leaders, are your employees satisfied with their jobs? Do they enjoy coming to work and feel valued? Workforce Chaplains can help. Locally owned, we work with organizations to provide holistic care to their employees. I'm Marcus Schrader, President of Workforce Chaplains, and we offer your team a 24/7 support system that positively affects your company's culture and productivity. With our personalized pricing and diverse support system, we handle the issues that you wish you had time for. To learn more, visit us at workforcechaplains.com.
What if your bank treated you like a person instead of an account number? What if you could sit across from the person you are opening an account with or requesting a loan from and have an actual conversation? You may be thinking, Todd, that's crazy talk. Well, not at Citizens Bank. Come visit them in Monrovia and meet Nick Gibson, their new branch manager, and the rest of their staff. Or give them a call at 317-831-0110. Citizens Bank is an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
All right, here we go. $100 down, $200 $300.
I went to my first firearms auction a few years ago. It was hosted by TJ Freege, one of my good friends from high school, who is a champion auctioneer and one of the best in the business. In spite of objections from liberal legislators, I walked away with a .22 rifle and a few boxes of ammunition. And I had a great afternoon with my grandpa that I won't soon forget. If you've ever wondered what treasure you could find in an auction, visit FreegeAuctioneers.com and take a look at their upcoming Central Indiana auction schedule. That's Freege, Freije, auctioneers.com. Visit FreegeAuctioneers.com.
Hi, I'm TJ Freege, owner and lead auctioneer at Freege & Freege Auctions and Marketing. I invite you to come see the power of live auctions. It's fast, it's fun, it's transparent, and it's the absolute best way to ensure you get fair market value for your asset today. Get results, go auction.
Welcome back, folks. That is all the time we have, not just for the day, for the week. For the week. When we come back next week, we'll be in the month of June, which is crazy to think about. Time flies, especially when you have such a great time listening to this program. And I appreciate you listening very much to this program. We are indeed blessed and Fortunate we are, again, trying to continue to grow. I appreciate those of you that listen to us on YouTube. Please subscribe to that channel. If you're on Facebook, please like us there. Share the show. Sign up for our newsletter if you'd like to get more content. ToddHuffShow.com/subscribe. Guys, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for listening. SDG. See you Monday. Take care.